So just a couple of hours ago, an MP posted a response to the Online Safety Act. Now, this is an MP that actually voted for the Online Safety Act, but I wanted to share this with you guys because I actually think it's a positive thing. Now, reading through what we're about to read through, you may, whilst reading it, be thinking, but this guy voted for the Online Safety Act. But I think it's important to read this with an air of nuance. But towards the end of it, he does try and look at it from the other point of view. And this is things that we should definitely be encouraging MPs to do, because there's a lot of people that like to scream and shout about the MPs not doing what we want them to do. But when we've got actual members of parliament that are thinking about the other side of it and trying to collect their thoughts on what the other side of that might look like, I think we need to encourage that. So without further ado, let's just take a look at it. So this was on the Salisbury Journal, and the Salisbury Journal is kind of like a news website, and this is a column that was being written by Desmond Swain, who's the Member of Parliament for Forest West. And it's called Reply to Those Calling for Repeal of the Online Safety Act. We often have to identify ourselves by providing our date of birth, for example, when we collect prescription for chemists. So I'm very surprised at the number of complaints I've received demanding repeal of the Online Safety Act 2021 because of its recently implemented requirement that verification of age be provided before access to adult content can be had. Now, just to caveat this a little bit, when he says Online Safety Act 2021, there was an original precursor in 2021. I think he means 2023 because that's the Online Safety Act latest version that we're currently on, making it sound like iPhones here. Now, another thing that I just want to kind of politely disagree with in this instance is when you're at a chemist and you just flash some ID to someone, they're not storing that, they're not keeping that, that is not able to be hacked or accessed or stolen. That's just the person behind the counter just looking at the little box that says your age in it. I don't think that's really the same thing as it being collected and stored by private companies. But once again, that's the purpose of this video, to not just educate MPs that happen to come across it. If I've got MPs watching this, I'll be pleasantly surprised, but I think it helps to educate the conversation rather than shouting and screaming. Let's say, actually, here's the core issues. I doubt that this deluge of emails has been prompted alone by the call from Reform's party that the act be repealed. And that is correct. It's not just because the people want to vote reform or whatever it might be. It's genuine concerns because the ID isn't just required to access, naughty content like that. It's required to access some places where that content might appear, such as forums and other places for discussion. No doubt the complaint is one of principle. I already like this guy because he acknowledges it. Entirely prompted by the infringement of liberty that requires one to give an account of oneself before proceeding with lawful business. This is why I wanted to approach this video with the positive mindset, because he's identifying why people feel this way. And there's a lot of people in the government at the moment that just aren't. They're just seeing it as, we are just protecting children, and any other opposite opinion to that comes across as being negative. And I like this because he's addressing it publicly and talking about these things. I'll get to more about that at the end. Were it just prompted by a reluctance to provide adult content websites with sufficient bona fides to identify oneself, then surely complainants would have just been too embarrassed to bring the matter to my attention. Just as a schoolboy, I was embarrassed when I sought to avoid disapproving looks as I reached for the top shelf at the newsagents for the last edition of Health and Efficiency. Fair play. I voted for the age verification provisions in the Online Safety Act, and I believe that they provide important protection for children, which there is no denying that there is a level of protection there for children. No one's taken that away from the scenario. I think the bigger concern is the byproduct of that for the British public's data. The Children's Commissioner, Dame Rachel D'Souza, has expressed her dismay at the quantity and nature of pornography that has been circulating on social media amongst young children. The early sexualization of children is deeply disturbing. Once again, valid concerns, and yes, that is a problem. I think where the disagreement comes in is how we go about dealing with that problem. Just requiring age verification to be handled by third-party companies that have histories of being hacked, there's got to be better ways. Of course, no system is foolproof, and those so determined will find ways of getting around the identity requirement. Nevertheless, the provisions have already led to a very significant reduction in access to adult content, and certainly prevent children from stumbling across it by accident. Once again, I will agree that the Online Safety Act has reduced the amount of children that would accidentally stumble upon this content. Naturally, it will do. But the other byproduct of that is for those more inclined, they will go to the dark web, where they won't just be seeing this sort of content. They'll go to the deep web and they'll venture into the dark web, and they'll be seeing things that are undoubtedly significantly worse. And I think that's where my issues arise, and I might even send this video to this MP, and hopefully he can understand the concern from that point of view. One way age verification can be circumvented is through the purchase of virtual private network software, VPNs. There's been an exponential rise in the sales of the software since the identity requirement was implemented on July the 5th. VPN provider Proton has revealed 1,800% increase in demand. And to be honest, that's the same across the board. You know what's coming. You just know what's coming. If you're looking for a VPN, check out private internet access at the link down below. They don't keep any logs, and it allows you to put up that extra barrier of protection from your internet service provider. By using my links down below, you not only get 4 months free, but you can also get yourself 86% off, and you help keep the lights on. I've just realised what a total mess my office is right now. I am tidying up, that's why it's a mess. Anyway, back to the video. Well, as I said, if people are really determined, they will find a way to get access without having to identify themselves. In any event, I would be very reluctant to restrict access to VPNs because they're essential for exiles and political dissidents in order to conceal their whereabouts from authoritarian regimes that are determined to silence them. I mean, there's a lot that can be said about the way that the UK is currently being run. We throw around the words that it's becoming more like China, which arguably it is. If you think about all the new things that are coming into effect and then you compare it to China, we're getting closer. But then when it comes to authoritarian regimes, I think from a community standpoint on this, I think I need your feedback. Where do you think we are on that scale? Do you think we are there yet? Do you think how close we are to it necessarily being considered authoritarian? I think at the moment, I say that there's a lot of aspects of British government that do come across as authoritarian, and debate this one in the comments, I don't know. There are, however, legitimate concerns about the Online Safety Act and the chilling effect it can potentially have on freedom of expression, to which I will return. And this is where he's going to collect his thoughts and come back and update with his thoughts and feelings. Not sure when. Look, I said from the start of this video that I like this guy, and the only reason I like this guy is because he's laid out pretty much both sides of the argument for the Online Safety Act in quite a fair and balanced way. I do think maybe he's misunderstood some of the concerns, but that's why if you go straight to, you know, the way that some MPs have scolded anyone that's against the Online Safety Act. We even had Peter Kyle call, was it Nigel Farage, Jimmy Savile defender or something? Crazy. I think when we have MPs that are trying to understand the thought process behind the people that are opposed to the Online Safety Act, and they're willing to engage in these conversations that enable us to further the debate about the efficacy of the Online Safety Act, I think we should reward this, encourage this, and engage with this in a healthy way. There's not much I can add to that. I probably might reach out to this MP, not for a video. I feel that that's not the way to do it. I think I'll probably reach out to this MP and just see if they're willing to have just a chat, so I can maybe convey from an audience perspective of what you guys think. But if you've got any suggestions or things that you'd like for me to add to the conversation, please drop them down below. I think this is a really good opportunity to open up dialogue rather than necessarily just bury the idea. So yeah, thank you for watching. Make sure you check out private internet access at the link down below. Get yourselves 4 months free, 86% off, and I'll see you all in the next one.